Good night. Can you hear me? Tonight is Tuesday, January 17th, 2023, and we are meeting in the George R. Room, the Little Theater at Brockton High School, and I ask you all now to please stand to salute our flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. That was wonderful. Thank you. In addition to attending in person, the public can view this meeting via television on Comcast channels 98 and 1071 in an HD version, and also online via the link www.youtube.com/TheBrocktonChannels. My name is Kathy Ehlers, and I'm the Vice Chair of the School Committee. I will be conducting this evening's meeting in the absence of our mayor. Mayor Sullivan is representing the City of Brockton in Washington, D.C. at the United States Conference of Mayors 91st Winter Meeting. We wish him the best of luck. I'd like to now open this meeting with a roll call. Ms. Sullivan.
Here.
Mr. Rodriguez.
Here.
Ms. Azak.
Here.
Mr. Homer.
Here.
Mr. Sullivan. And Mayor Sullivan is absent, and Ms. Ehlers is here. I'm not the only one that's done this.
Here.
Cynthia Rivas Mendez.
Here.
Okay. Ms. Campbell informs me that there are a couple of sign-ups on hearing of visitors. Each visitor gets 3 minutes to speak, and I would like to invite the first person up, Gregory Fernandez.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Greg Fernandez. I am the Executive Director of Rose Conservatory, a Brockton native and a father to 3 amazing kids, 2 of whom are BPS students. Surrounded by music my entire life, as my mother was the music teacher at Latin School for 35 years before she passed, just days before her retirement, less than a week from her birthday, and 1 week before her retirement party, which ended up being her memorial. In 2011, when my mother died from an out-of-the-blue aneurysm, I decided to go to college and get my degree in order to teach music in a school setting like she did. I was 33 years old. I worked at Buckingham, Brown & Nichols for 6 years as the head music teacher, and then again at Dedham Country Day School for about 5 years afterwards. It was cushy, paid weekends, paid holidays, paid vacations. But after being immersed in that life and lifestyle, I decided to leave the profession yearning for more than that was in front of me. At the beginning of 2021, my journey with BPS began. I was going to name all of our accomplishments in that time, but I challenge each of you to Google Greg Fernandez Brockton. You will see everything related Greg Fernandez and BPS, from gigantic 500-plus kid community beats programs to Channel 5 interviews focusing on the musical excellence of our Brockton Public School children. With that said, I am not here to talk about the last 2 to 3 years of Rose Conservatory in partnership with Brockton Public Schools. In the words of Martin Luther King, if you can fly, then run. If you can run, then walk. If you can walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, you must keep moving forward. I am here to introduce you all to Rose Conservatory. Up until June of 2022, I worked directly with Superintendent Thomas. It worked most of the time, but why we're here this evening is because I think my relationship with BPS should, could, and would be stronger with the committee aware of who we are and working together with the committee to maintain a high quality of services and programming that we all want to provide for the students who we all serve. While I am forever thankful for what I have received from the Brockton Public Schools up to this point, and even until this day, whether we're talking tangible or intangible things, I deliberately and consciously want to acknowledge the goodness BPS has brought to my life, to the life of my students, their families, and to recognize the source of that goodness, which is the children. As you will hear tonight from many Rose Conservatory families and children, Rose Conservatory connects children in a positive way to something outside of themselves as individuals. We are the Rose Conservatory. I want to end with a story about Brockton. When I was a child growing up in Brockton Public Schools, I went to the Franklin for most of my childhood, which is now condos. I remember when we were all introduced to instruments in the 5th and 6th grade. Anyone whose family was able to afford private lessons for their kids thrived in the Brockton public music system. Those who did not have any exposure or any resources did not. I saw people with saxophones one day, a week later they were in a closet somewhere because they had not been familiarized with the instrument. They had not learned about the history of instruments, never even probably got to touch an instrument. And so kids were dropping left and right, and I always wondered why. So I told myself when I started working with Brockton, I wanted to make this opportunity available to all kids that it otherwise wouldn't be able to touch. We needed to change the face of the music program in Brockton to be more inclusive, to have more faces in it that look like mine. I remember coming to Brockton as a violinist, and there was nothing for me to do. Right now, we have 3rd and 4th graders reading music at a middle school level. Some of them are playing 6 instruments, not at a time, of course, but 6 instruments effectively. Violin, piano, guitar, voice, West African drums, and handbells. We are providing a resource that cannot be matched and starting at the ground level with 2nd graders. We are Rose Conservatory. We invite you to meet us.
I believe it's Larry Helm. Howell. I'm sorry about that. I couldn't read your handwriting. Fair enough.
My name is Larry Howell. I'm a resident of Scituate and a member of UCC Norwell Congregational Church. We are partnering with Rose Conservatory because of the efforts of Mr. Fernandez and the product that he puts out. I think anybody who attends there, such as I've been doing on a volunteer basis for a while, would be extremely impressed by the kids and their ability to learn and perform. The concert this last Christmas was amazing. The various things that they did and how they performed and conducted themselves. There's a lot of learning that goes on beyond just music at Rose Conservatory. There's a lot of life skills and experiences that are shared in such a way that they come to know themselves even better as people, which is extremely important. So I'm happy to be here to support the Rose and would hope that you in your way, if you see fit, would be able to support them also. Thank you.
Let's hope I get this one right. Laurel Jabot Bach. Bala.
You got the middle right.
Good evening. My name is Laurel Jabot-Bala. I'm a Brockton Public School parent, Brockton Public School educator, and a volunteer at the Rose Conservatory. I'm going to read a letter from a teacher for one of our students. I feel very connected to this as a parent. So this is from our Gabriel. His teacher wrote this. The start of the school year was a tough transition for Gabriel Sauvignon. He presented as an anxious and sensitive young boy who was easily triggered and had behaviors that were unsafe and unkind to his classmates and teachers. There were daily phone calls with Gabriel's mom, Carlene, who was doing all the right things to ensure her son's success, both in and out of school. Carlene expressed her level of frustration with the lack of after-school care programs that are equipped to handle the supports that kids like Gabriel need. Carlene was on track to find a new job and change to an overnight shift in order to accommodate Gabriel's need for high levels of support after the school day. Gabriel had been attending another aftercare program in the city, and there had already been multiple suspensions, meetings, and threats of expulsion due to Gabriel's aggressive behavior episodes. Gabriel's behaviors in school were being affected as well. The amount of kids at the after program and lack of structure left Gabo overstimulated and anxious, often trickling over to the school day. When Carlene mentioned a new program she wanted Gabo to try out, I was hesitant. Will they be able to provide him with the setting and supports he needs to be successful? Would his behaviors increase with the transition to a new program? Luckily, my weariness was almost immediately alleviated. There was an almost instant change in Gabriel. Once he started attending Rose Conservatory for after-school care, he changed into a brand new kid. He has made immense progress, not just academically, but also with his behavior and social skills. He is able to solve conflicts with peers in appropriate ways and without adult interventions. He's able to regulate his emotions and ask for breaks or sensory tools to calm him down before his behavior gets out of control. He is able to sit and focus on tasks for long periods of time and has even begun going out of his way to find kind things to do for friends and teachers. As much as I would like to take all the credit for his success and progress, I know that it's not all me. The Rose Conservatory gives students a safe place to grow and learn. They don't shy away from students that most other programs will not accept. Some disabilities are ones that we can't see. But just because you can't see a person's disability does not mean that they don't deserve support to access the same programs and benefits as everyone else. I would like to personally thank the staff at Rose Conservatory for all the work you've done with Gabriel and all the other students who don't seem to fit at other aftercare programs. You're making a difference in Gabriel Sauvignon as proof of that. Best, Athena Delanto, as an educator here in Brockton. And my personal connection is I have a child who I went through very similar situations with. I was a parent that was called. I wish there were programs like the Rose Conservatory here in my community. We ended up finding a program in Somerville, which you know the distance coming to and from. So this is a gift. It's much needed, and it's making a difference here in Brockton.
I'd like to invite Nathania Yasin Royce.
First, I'd like to say good evening, everyone. My name is Nathania Yasin Royce. I'm a parent of 4 children, 2 which also are BPS students. I work very closely with a lot of families within our community, supporting them and just guiding them, doing case management. So I know the need for programs that just give our children what they need. I'd like to first say thank you for everything that BPS has done already for the Rose Conservatory, as it's very appreciated and not unnoticed. The Rose Conservatory is an extraordinary program, helping not only my son and me, but many other kids in the community that I can see. I can't express the feeling I felt when I brought my son to that program, and when I walk in and just see all of the children just engaging in so many different activities. And it's just such a community when you go into this program. Sorry. I don't want to get off track, but Rose Conservatory is able to provide not only childcare, but it's able to provide a program that children love and learn at the same time for children in our community at a price that families can somewhat afford, speaking for myself. I'm trying not to be emotional. My son is a 7-year-old BPS student. He's very, I like to say, spirited. He needs lots of support a lot of the time. He currently is a student at the Raymond School. Before that, he went to the Unknown School. But he left because the faculty at the school just didn't have the skill set to provide what he needed. To help my son and to tend to his needs along with other daycare services he attended. My son was also attended several other programs that he was, just as this other parent, this teacher had wrote in regards to that parent, my son went to several programs where there were terminations, there were suspensions, and, you know, we don't have to get into what that leads to in the end, you know, children being set up for failure when they're so young. It's such put downs and disappointment when, you know, you get those calls and you're trying to work, and being a mother that supports so many other families and you feel like you can't support your own and you just can't find it. Rose has been an amazing community program that has helped my son in many ways. The people who work there, they have the skill set that's needed to guide him and to support him, not only him, but all the other children that are there. Rose is the one place where my son feels welcomed, and he doesn't feel not accepted for who he is or what his disability is, or he is just himself, and he's accepted for just who he is and supported in that place. He actually learns new things, and he absolutely loves all of it. He comes home talking about the new songs he's learned or the different activities he's done, whether it was STEM or reading or just, it's so many different activities that fall into it that it's not just music. They're learning so many things through music. They're learning social emotional skills through their music. They're learning academics. My son, he didn't know his letters, and he's been in the Brockton Public School since kindergarten. My son, since he has started Rose, is reading 3-letter words. And I know that these words he's learning when he's there at the program. For weeks when he started, I had a hard time just going into the program to see someone who could control him and to see them sitting in a space, and he's containable, and his body is not impulsive, and his words are not loud, and someone can address him in a manner that makes him feel safe and supported. And I just want to express just how much Rose means to me, and that being a mother of a child who sometimes requires therapeutic programming that is so expensive and really hard to access. To me, Rose is my son's therapeutic program. It's so helpful in his development in so many ways. Rose is a great program in our community that gives the kids the opportunity to learn, as I said, so many different skill sets while having fun at the same time through music. There is a lot in our community for our youth, but a program like this is absolutely amazing. There's nothing like it, and that's coming from a parent of children from college to preschool. They've been in every program. I've never seen anything like it. And another part I just want to add is, you know, being a member of Brockton my whole life, in a community where over 50% of our families, they qualify for low income, or they fall into that category, or so giving families, those families, the opportunity to put their kids in a program that will genuinely help and teach them at the same time, as well as supporting them in a way that no one else can. I just want to say thank you to Mr. Fernandez, to everyone that works at Rose, to all of you kids. I don't know that I've ever had the chance as an educator, as a person, to really express how much Rose really means to me. So being here is so important to me tonight, just to make it a point to say that, you know, Rose truly is a gem in our city, a hidden gem that needs to be acknowledged and just known about. And we truly, Rose shows our children, Rose Conservatory has showed me to never give up, to stay optimistic, find the bright side, and that roses truly still grow in concrete. They do.
I want to just take a moment to thank everybody that came up here to talk about something that you believe in your hearts, for your children, for your families. If you were looking to get visibility on Rose Conservatory, I would say this is a success. And I just want to thank you for having the guts to come up here and tell your story, to talk about Gabriel's story. All those stories are very important, and it's not anything that we're not used to hearing, but it's a nice reminder of, we're here for the students, we're here for the kids. So thank you. All right, let's move on. So, hearing of visitors. Next is our consent agenda. Does anyone, number 3, consent agenda, does anyone, any of the committee members want to pull any of these A, B, C, or D out of the consent agenda? Can I get a motion to approve all A, B, C, and D? And let me read them before we approve them. A, approval of minutes for the December 6, 2022 regular school committee meeting. B, approval of 2022-2023 home education request. C, approval of the field trip for Brockton High School DECA State Conference. D, acceptance of human resources notifications, appointments for certified personnel, appointments for non-certified personnel, and personnel actions, leaves of absences, resignations, and retirements.
Motion to approve consent agenda.
Second.
Thank you. Motion approved. All opposed, raise your hand. I'll take a final roll call. Ms. Sullivan?
All in favor?
All in favor? Thank you. Motion has been made and properly seconded. We're good to go. By unanimous vote, the majority vote has passed. Moving on to the superintendent's report. This is where I very gladly get to move it over to you, Superintendent Thomas. Take it away.
Thank you. First up, rejoining us is Ellen, our student rep, who's been out for a while, and she's back with us, and we're glad to see you back and to hear your report.
Thank you. And thank you for having me back. I was actually out with a concussion, and I was out of school for a while, so that's why I was out. I want to thank Jahir for stepping in my place for those meetings. And before I start, I'd just like to mention I'm a long-term volunteer for the Rose Conservatory. I've been working there since day one in September of 2020, and I'd like to share that perspective. It's just as rewarding for me being part of that community and making a change and seeing what has happened in these kids' lives individually, them making progress. And I just want to say thank you to Mr. Fernandez and Ms. Bala for the work they put in and day out, and it is seen. And I'm excited to come back this week after my concussion to regular scheduled volunteering there. Okay, and then moving on to the presentation. Starting with our Abigail Adams Scholarship. On last Thursday, we had our annual Abigail Adams Scholarship ceremony where 227 of our seniors were awarded for being the top 25% of MCAS takers in the state. Students coordinated with staff to create this year's club fair where each club or an organization at the school was invited to have a booth to present to prospective club members. This event allows for students to evaluate their choices for clubs, talk to students in leadership positions, and increase their extracurricular involvement. Seniors traveled recently to the DECA district level competition in order to qualify for the state's competition. Those who placed were Sania Marshall, Aaliyah Watson, Brady Witt, Lucas Cardozo, Adelando Rosario, Akela Farquason, excuse if I got that wrong, Angel Soar, Joseph Lobo. We had on January 11th, Stonehill's Assistant Dean, Kate Brennan, came to the high school to introduce seniors to opportunities at Stonehill College. 30 scholarships will be awarded ranging from $15,000 to $30,000 to only BHS graduates. Stonehill is also offering a mentoring program ran by past Brockton High School graduates to our soon-to-be graduates. Our senior, Samia Fernandez, was awarded the Thurgood Marshall College Fund Scholarship at the Celtics game last week. We had auditions and have started preparations for FebFest, so stay tuned for updates on that in the next couple of weeks. And then freshmen Jared Mighty and Robbie Moyes qualified for the 400-meter race at the New Balance Nationals on March 10th at the New Balance track. And then to end, I'd just like to give a student shout out to our Posse Scholars. The Posse Scholarship offers a full tuition to Posse's partnering colleges and universities. This year we've had 2 selected, Caleb Tarbush, who plans to attend Century College, and Vasily Montero de Vega, who plans to attend Bucknell University. Thank you.
Thank you, Ellen. We really appreciate that, as always, and it's great to have you back. Next up, I'm going to introduce Assistant Superintendent of Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion, Renee Haywood, and she'll introduce the others that will be speaking, but thank you, Renee.
Hey, good evening, everyone. I have the honor and privilege to introduce to you Dr. Soraya Presame-Calixt. She has recently been transferred into the EDI office, which is perfect for me because we definitely have the common interest of connecting parents and helping them to access their students' education and also advocate for their students. So without further ado, I don't want to take up her time, but if we could just welcome Dr. Presame-Calixt.
Thank you so much, Renee. Good evening, everyone. As Renee mentioned, I am Dr. Soraya Presame-Calixt. I am the Parent Engagement Specialist for the Brockton Public Schools. I am truly honored to be here, and it's a first. I am excited, a bit nervous, but I'm truly excited to be here and to talk about family engagement. Oh, it's working. All right, so enough of me now. So on the agenda tonight, on family engagement, it is important that we talk and define family engagement, history of family engagement, why family engagement matters, and truly, when you look at family engagement in entirety, it equals proficiency. So what is family engagement? The primary goal of family engagement is to facilitate shared responsibility that contributes to children's healthy development, learning, and growth from the earliest age into young adulthood. I want to take a pause when I say facilitate shared responsibility. I believe that families and Brockton Public School are in a relationship. Too often, we know that we are in that relationship. However, families not sure or do not know that they are in this relationship. Therefore, we need to acknowledge that it needs to be a give and take relationship. And as we are talking family engagement in whatever we do, it is important to be efficient and effective. So effective family interaction respects multiple languages, gender identities, religions, and ethnicities while being culturally sensitive, collaborative, and equitable. We need to think about the population that we are serving. As we heard from families here, and as we look at Brockton, we have a variety and a rich population. Therefore, it matters that we look at them and learn to step back and understand there are so many things that we do not know about them and open to learning. I do want to do a quick brief overview and history of family engagement. And the reason it's really important is because too often people talk about parent involvement. While it was true during 1965 with the Elementary and Secondary Education Act with President Lyndon Johnson, it was most likely focused on equal access to education for all students. And 2002, 2011, and 2002, there was most likely data evaluation, as well as accountability and teacher evaluation. Those were the focus really when we talked to with President Bush. However, in 2015, with the ESSA Act, Every Student Succeeds Act, with President Barack Obama, with the Title I, we talk about family engagement. There is a shift, and with family engagement, truly what it means is that it's no longer, baking, parents come to bake and cooking, stuff like that. Family needs to really integrate it in everything that is being done, and they have a space. So the focus and goal of that act, Every Student Succeed Act, it provides a unique opportunity for parents and families to give their input and to hold state and district accountable for their children's educational experience, which you will find in the Title I. And Title I matters because it really opened the space for families, as well as noticing that how the DESE look at, when we say parents and families, is intentional. Because parents, again, looking at Brockton, the population that we are serving, parents is not always mom and dad. Families, as you know, in the district, it's a neighbor, it's a family member who agreed to hold on to a child because life truly matters and they have to make a quick decision. So it is important that we look at and think about the families that we are serving in that lens. Therefore, if we want to do something, and I believe Brockton, if we're going to do it, we do it well, and we can. So it's important to look at the goal of effective family engagement, which is eliminating obstacles to participation. As you know, we have a community who speak different languages. I am fortunate to speak many languages. It is truly a blessing. However, this work requires hard work as well as hot work. We need to be truly committed to it. Family engagement equals student success. Why? As you can tell, this work is not really sitting in the office. It's truly being out there, connecting with the people in the community. I started in 2019, 3 months before the pandemic, so you will understand. Parent engagement shifted, and my job was to really make an assessment, meeting with parents, listening to their stories, what are the needs, and what we want Brockton, how we want Brockton to support them, and to understand this is a relationship. So I'm also invited, DESE, it's very active, we talk often with them. I'm invited to do many presentations and trainings with the Department of Education. This is Commissioner Riley, we went there. And we invited parents and people in the community to be there. And I'm thankful to operations, as well as our superintendent of school, who never shy away when it comes to family engagement to give the support and the skills or the needs to help with the needs that we have to make sure that families are present and part of the conversation. We do other activities as well. And as we do, families really understand family engagement differently. They can be in the space, listening, understanding, and actually make a change. And truly, that's how we will see proficiency. As we do this work, it is important to collaborate. You will see me in operation, bilingual, I'm almost everywhere, but I'm just one person. But it has to be connecting with the partnership and collaborators that are in the district. So CPLAN has been an amazing partner. Sabura, as you know, many of them, Brockton Public Schools, sometimes they are offering different services, and too often families do not know. Again, thinking about the population that we are serving. We have a partnership as well with Federation for Children with Special Needs, as we are working with families to understand their rights and so many other things that they need to be informed so they can, speak up for their children. And Let's Make Friends, a great organization who has been very supportive of the work, and they meet every Wednesday, and I think many of the members are here tonight. Lesley University, throughout the pandemic, it was a strong partnership where families wanted to learn English. At least 40 parents graduated from their ESL classes. So it was very important that we give families the things that they need to support them, because as you can tell with my accent, I'm not from here. I'm from Haiti. I had to learn the language. And as I learn, I become more fluent in understanding a few things that are happening and to be a service. Because to me, that's all that matters. I'm here for families and represent them. I am also a parent. As I mentioned earlier, we talked to DASI a lot, and they came to see the work that we are doing. Space is another organization. So what do I want you to take away tonight from that presentation? I don't want you to know that family engagement is about team effort. It's not one person. It is a launch. Everyone, as NASA, they go into space. Everyone use their expertise together to make it happen. It's truly about trust. It's also about relationship building, partnership, coordinated program that prioritizes equity with the goal of embracing outcomes for children and youth. This is very important to elevate and amplify families' voice. We heard them some tonight, and they need to know that they were welcome, welcoming their input so they can co-design policy that ensure equity, diversity, inclusion, and belonging. And we've also talked about dual capacity. Dual capacity truly means that it's not Brockton Public School trying to do everything, but looking at a lens of no longer deficit, but the base strength to co-facilitate school events, to help parents understand that they are leaders. Of course they are leaders. They are our partners and also experts. What I've learned too often when teachers are having a hard time with students and they call the parents, many of them are able to give pointers. When my child is acting this way, this is what needs to be done, and it does work. So I truly want families to understand that they have that power and they are the expert. That is my goal. Other takeaway, it's important that our communication is consistent. It has to be personalized. We really need that face-to-face. I know COVID happened, it was Zoom and everything else, but he needs to be face-to-face. Home visit matters. I think sometimes we need to go back to basic. Phone calls. Most of my time, really, I make a lot of phone calls. Sometimes it's 2 hours, 3 hours, depending on the needs. And sometimes just 5 to 2 minutes, just to check in with parents. Most of my time truly matters when, and hearing from parents who tell you that, that phone call, you never know how it changed and transformed a few things in my life. It matters. Communication also, it needs to be multi-layered. I had someone helping me with sign language, because when we are meeting with parents, there, as we mentioned earlier, some of the disability or not, you cannot see them. However, sign language matters. Layman terms matter when we talk to parents. We're sending text message. Is it that works for you or not? The parent portal, and I know with Evelyn Plan and other organizations, Sabura, we've been working really hard to really inform parents that they know how to navigate the portal. It is new. Even ourselves, we have to learn so we can teach them. That really matters. And we need to also understand how the work has evolved. And it requires support to sustain and thrive in a way that only the city of Brockton champion can achieve in that level of proficiency. I think Maya Angelou stated something that is truly powerful. He states, surviving is important, but thriving is elegant. And I think we can do that. We can thrive. And also, it is true. It is a fact. Countless studies have found that family engagement in education is important to a child's success in school. And that's all we need. That's all we want. A better future for our students, for our children. I'm going to ask Renee, please, to share some of the resources that are created for families with the support of the Bilingual office. So you will see resources, and when we do share information with parents, We make sure that it's in different languages, the key languages that they speak: Haitian Creole, French, Spanish, Portuguese, and there are others, but the main ones have been those. So you will find that. Also, in the package, I also share with you the list of activities that Parents Academy offer. And again, it was truly a partnership with CPLAN, Subura, Let's Make Friends, all of them coming together to offer services and support to parents. Also, looking at proficiency through the lens of through family engagement, what it truly really means. So I'm sorry if you don't have that, but we are sharing it right now. And to end, a parent who couldn't be here tonight shared this note. She shared it, and I would like to please take a moment to read her note. Boa noite. Family engagement is speaking up for my child, speaking up for my community, and speaking up on behalf of families not able to be present. Family engagement is more than attending bingo for books. Family engagement is reading to my child, is asking questions. Family engagement is talking to other parents and family members, learning, sharing, and growing together. Family engagement is going to library with my children. It's holding the district accountable to its promises to provide a high-quality, free education that ensures students are socially, emotionally, and academically prepared to live in a global society. Family engagement is empowering. When families are engaged, students benefit by knowing they are not alone on their educational journey. When families are engaged, the community benefits by having a village that is constantly striving to get better. When families are engaged, family benefits by feeling a sense of belonging. When families are engaged, school benefit by having a supportive community. When families are engaged, the district benefits by having families who are informed and care about the future of education. It becomes important that we look at family engagement for what it is: relationship building. Beautifully written. It wasn't from me. That was from a parent, Yvette Centeo. So I'm here. If you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer, but I know time is of an issue. I am truly thankful, and I appreciate the time that you have given me. It is truly an honor. Hopefully, through that presentation, you have a better sense of my work and how we truly need a team to make it happen and to be proficient. Thank you so much.
It's a great time for transition. Thank you so much, Dr. Presame. We have some really great things going, and again, I am so blessed just to have your work in the EDI department. So there are no questions, right? Just assuming. Oh, Ms. Mendez.
Yes, thank you so much for that presentation and clarifying exactly what family engagement looked like in the pandemic and what it should continue to look like, quote unquote, post-pandemic, because we still have a mask on. So, but in regards to the goal level proficiency, what has been some type of communication or accountability that we have had with our families in regards to the 90% proficiency goal that we have?
Thank you for that question. Again, 90% proficiency in 5 years. It is certainly an amazing goal, and we can. I know it's ELA and math. So my job truly is meeting with parents, make them understand what proficiency really means. Unless you understand what it means, I truly believe the knowledge is important, but to understand it, as you understand, you are able to actually do what it means truly. So it's connecting with families, and we still do Zoom meetings, so we have face-to-face. However, families are also welcome if they cannot make it, face-to-face, that they are able to access it via Zoom. And my work is not really 8 to 4, 8 to 5, whatever you want to put it. It's really constant. Families are calling me on a daily basis, and I'm glad that is again to serve. And I think this role really requires support of the team to make it happen. So we hold a meeting with families on Saturdays, any days that are possible, whenever they need us, so they hear the message. But again, and I also believe I want to let when I speak to that, through my work, it's also about the community. As we connect with the community, we have meetings where families come and we talk about what proficiency truly means. Because as they know what it means, they are able, to work it through at home as well. So we are working. It's a work in progress.
Thank you. I have one last question.
Sure.
And it regards, from my understanding, as your role is parent specialist, correct?
I'm the parent engagement specialist, yes.
Parent engagement specialist.
For the district.
Thank you. So in regards to that, I think that can really fall a lot on you on like the parent communication or family communication. Now my question brings back, because this is such a broad goal that we have as a district, what does department to department collaboration look like? And how is this message of being able to work with our families going through our schools? So it's not just a U or DEI department thing, but more of a district level that everybody's on board with a lot of what you're doing already.
Again, I am truly happy to be here tonight because I'm not really sure people grasp that idea of family engagement. And too often they think it's my job, it's Dr. Preseme's job, but it's all of us. As I mentioned, it is a launch. So what we are doing and continue to do is truly to keep on sharing the message and collaborate. We not only collaborate toward, in our departments with Bilingual, which is one of the amazing collaboration that we have, especially when it comes to translate some of the documents, but also teaching and learning. I've been working with Karen for a long time with DASI. It's truly a partnership, and also visiting the schools. So what I do, especially when I know there is a new principal, I go and meet them and tell them, how can I help? And as they tell me what they need, because it's truly about school improvement. But I also want to acknowledge that there are family engagement liaisons that are in the school, and their job is truly to look at their school improvement and to bring services or activities that tailor to their needs. So it is a lot of work. We need a team, really. It's not, even though I'm the face now, but it's truly a team of efforts and collaboration that can make this work, truly a success or proficient the way that we need it to be.
And Cynthia,
Thank
I
you.
can have Sharon come up for a couple of minutes and speak to you about the proficiency commitment teams that we have at schools now. The ad went out, Sharon, back in November, and we worked with Kim Gibson and the BEA to put together a proficiency commitment. I don't know the exact name. It's PLP. Sharon will come. I see so many job ads, I can't remember them all. But it's a commitment team to the proficiency commitment. There's a team at each school that was put together. It was advertised. We worked with the union, and Sharon speak on exactly what it's called at each school, because we have PLCs, we have several different teams at schools. But we'll talk to one that actually is dealing specifically with the proficiency commitment.
So it's the Proficiency Commitment Leadership Team. Every school has one, and the district is working with all of the teams as a whole, and then a subgroup within each will represent their school with the district. And the reason for that is part of our TAG funding. It was originally just went out to specific schools. This year it went to the entire district. And part of what we knew, we made a commitment to our community that we are pushing for proficiency in the next 5 years. That's our goal. And so we needed really to be strategic and make sure that there were teams at each school that was really focused on that. And in our meeting with the community coming up, and Renee might have mentioned it, I don't think she had a chance to yet, but we have quarterly meetings with the community. And our focus at the meeting coming up on Thursday is just that. The proficiency is not just us saying a word, but it's us defining what it means and what it looks like in terms of our relationships with our community partners. We always say our parents are our partners, but what does that partnership look like? And what does proficiency in that partnership looks like? And working with them to define together what it means for us to be partners in educating their children. And that work can then go out to those commitment teams in each school and make sure that when they're looking at data that they're seeing what we said is proficiency for our relationships with families, that they're actually seeing evidence of that and can pull data to demonstrate that that's what's happening. We know we have a lot of work to do. It's always a lot of work because that's what education is about. But the commitment to do the work is really very deliberate and focused now, and with an eye on proficiency for all areas, getting there in the next, actually it's not 5 years anymore, it's 4.5. So in the next 4.5 years, our goal is to be able to stand in front of our community and say, we committed to 90% proficiency, and here's what it looks like in Brockton. But along the way, those updates, those revisions, and defining what it means so that we're all on the same page is the work that we're doing now.
Like Ms. Walder, you mentioned that on this Thursday, there's going to be a community meeting.
There's a community meeting, and Renee can give you the title of the meeting, but it is from 4 to 6 at the 661 Center Street location, and that's a meeting where the superintendent's cabinet, members of the cabinet, especially within the teaching and learning realm, will be there to meet with community partners and families to talk about what we are doing with our commitment to proficiency, giving updates on that, and then really engaging in, again, that conversation of how do we make sure that our connection to them is proficient. And so that's work we'll be doing this week.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Did I say 4 to 6? I think you did. I'm sorry, it's 5 to 7. We need to make sure the time is right, so you'll be there.
Mrs. Ehlers? I just had a question. So thank you so much for the handouts. This is great information, a lot of resources here for the families. And then the calendar, all these workshops, this is really impressive, and this is what our families need. So I'm looking at the handout that we have. So I only see like December 17th. Are they still going on throughout the year?
Yes, as much as I can. Again, we try to come up with them, and as the weather changes, we will pay attention to that as well. We just had the poetry contest, writing contest, and it was out there. So we'll be going to the schools and with the partnership we had with Bilingual department, they're able to give us some gift that we can share with children to push them into the right, to write and share their stories. Because I've learned a lot through the pandemic. By doing that poetry contest, I can hear from families where they are going, what they are going through, and the children, what the needs are. And I have also a background in counseling, so that really helped to kind of support the students and families.
Thank you. So where are we advertising this? Where are we posting this for the families to find it? Is it on our BPS website as soon as they log in? Is it on our calendars? Because some of this stuff, Infinite Campus Workshop, a lot of families can benefit from this. So where can families look for it?
I still have phone calls, parents who still want to know how to navigate the system, and if it's listed here. So it's advocated we disseminate those information through the website. And myself, I am a fan of WhatsApp, so I don't always just post things. I speak it. I share voicemail with families so they know, because sometimes they only have 30 seconds, short information for them. And you will see me in the streets, going to stores, going to barber shops, different places, restaurants, and I share those resources anywhere and everywhere that I know family meet. And also when we have meetings, we have them, for families, we talk about them, we hold sessions. Sabura has been a very great support as well, because they have the ESL class, and families are aware of what's going on. But again, when we want to welcome people, especially our population, it is important that they know we touch base on the basic that they need when they come to the system. So that's why we kind of developed this resource.
Definitely, thank you. It's a wonderful resource, and I'm seeing all these pamphlets in different languages, and this is what we need. This is what our families need. So thank you for your hard work. We appreciate it.
It's a lot, but it is an honor, really, truly, to serve. Thanks again for having me.
Can I just respond to that? So part of the work that Soraya and I will be doing is taking a look at organizing family engagement because, we have partnerships with different folks in the family engagement liaisons work under the bilingual education department. So there's partnerships that just need to be more purposeful about this work because she's been doing a lot. And if you think about it, if each kid has one parent, we're talking about 15,000. So that's a lot for her. So, and we're not doing it alone. We're not doing it in a silo. However, we just want to focus on how to be more strategic about that work so that I can keep her. So that she doesn't burn out because she works Saturdays, she works evenings, and she's still in the office and meeting with people, and that's just not sustainable. So we do really need to rethink how this work is being done, not because of the quality, because we certainly are getting that, but just the human capital, it's just not sustainable. So that's the work that we'll be doing in the coming months.
Thank you.
Mr. Homer?
I was just going to mention, I know from schools in my district too, the parent advisory councils are active. That's another good way to connect with families and also for the parents to learn about, extracurricular opportunities and community building activities within those schools. And I hope to be able to help connect information with our community facilitators, and I know sometimes language might be a barrier too, but we don't want that to be a barrier too for the kids to be involved in their school in those fun activities and those family nights and those things that happen in the schools. And I saw that they've been lightly attended so far this school year in the few meetings that we've had at some of those schools and in the ward meetings. So I'd love to be able to amplify that opportunity for more people to get involved and to help out. So if there's anything that I can do to share that with constituents, I'm going to be happy to do that too. Thank you.
It is appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So next up, we have Kelly Jones. She's the Director of Bilingual Education. Our departments have been collaborating specifically over equitable design work. I think that was probably the first committee I was on, Kelly, when I joined BPS. And we've been working together. Last time we had a school committee meeting, you heard the work in student voice that was under that equitable design umbrella, and now we have Kelly and others. She's brought a whole crew, and she's been doing this work with Dr. Presame as well on family engagement.
So before Kelly starts, thank you, Kelly. I just want to recognize our community partners. I want to recognize Dr. Amina Pilgrim is here with us tonight, Lenny Montero from Sabora, and we have Ivelisse Carabello from the C Plan, people that we have worked closely with in my 3.5 years as superintendent, and we weren't able to get through COVID without them and their support not only of the school system, but their support of the community and the families of Brockton. So I want to thank them for being here and for their partnership, and also I want to thank them for always pushing us, because it's not always, there's things that we need to get better at, and they make sure they point them out. So, but having them here and having them as partners for the last 3.5 years as superintendent has been amazing, and it's really appreciated. So thank you for being here. Thank you, Carolee. Sorry.
All right, no problem. Thanks, Mike. You'll be hearing from Amina and
Good.
Lenny in a little bit. So, good evening, everyone. I'm Kelly Jones. I'm the Director of Bilingual Education. I am so proud to have been part of Brockton Schools my entire educational career, and I've been the director for 8 years, and I can't believe it's been 8 years already. But we're going to talk about multilingual parent communication and engagement. First, I'd like for us to think about the families of Brockton Public Schools and who they are and what languages they speak. You can see longitudinally, we had 3,502 students in January 2016 identified as English language learners, and now we are up to 4,420. And that number isn't static because every year kids exit English learner status and new students enroll in our schools with English learner status. So we have close to 1,000 more students since January 2016. Former English learners are students who achieved proficiency in English in the last 4 years, and we have to monitor their academic progress for 4 years. And you can see that is actually decreasing because students are exiting those 4 years. So we had in February 22, 1,090 FELs, and today we have 1,037 FELs. Now, this first language, not English, I think is the really important number for us to think about as a district when we're working on parent engagement and communication. Because 44.7% of our families, our students identified as first language, not English, meaning that they spoke another language in the home before coming to school. 44.7 is the same as in 2022 because they haven't updated it on the DESE website. So 44% of our kids are exposed to a language other than English in the home, and they come to Brockton Public Schools. Some of them are English learners when they come to schools. Some of them are not English learner when they come to schools. Some of them exit English learner status very quickly. So almost half of our population have the influence of other languages other than English. Now, who are those home languages? I've provided some longitudinal data for you. Our largest language is Cape Verdean Creole. 42.9% speak that. The next one is Spanish. And you can see over time, our Spanish population has really increased dramatically. It is almost over doubled. Math is not my forte, but I think it's over double what we were in 2016, as well as our Portuguese-speaking population. We are getting a lot of families from Brazil coming to make Brockton their home. Our Haitian population, you can see, has remained fairly stable at 17.4%. And our fifth largest language is Vietnamese. Now, the key to strategic planning is involving lots of stakeholders from all involved in Brockton Public Schools. And so as part of the process last spring, the district engaged with community members, families, parents, over a long dialogue. And as a result, one of the strategic initiative was all around multilingual parent communication and engagement. And I have it here in all our languages, written languages, Portuguese, Spanish, and French right now. And so that is being communicated to families that communication engagement in linguistically appropriate ways is important to Brockton. So I'm going to talk about 3 things tonight, and they're all centering multilingual learners and their families and the issue of equity and access at the center. So there are 3 separate programs: our Multilingual Parent Communication Center, our Equitable Design Project, and our Bilingual PAC all have the common thread of equity, inclusion, and access. Sorry, wrong way. Oh. So, in the fall, Brockton Public Schools, I'm proud to announce, launched its Multilingual Parent Communication Center. It is housed at 365 Westgate Drive, and we have a satellite office at Brockton High School. This center has brought all of the resources for our linguistically diverse families together in one place. Our bilingual community relations facilitators are here, our ELL parent advocates are here, and the community outreach specialists are all together at 365 Westgate to be able to provide comprehensive services in multiple languages. The languages available are Cape Verdean Creole, Spanish, Portuguese, Haitian Creole, French, Chinese, Lao, Hmong, Thai, English. And we also have a contract with Lionbridge. That is a telephonic interpretation program. So for all of our families, we have access to linguistically appropriate communication over the phone. So what does the Multilingual Parent Communication Center do? They provide a variety of services. They can make calls home from school to parents. They can make calls from parents to schools. They can they do provide interpretation support at family school conferences and evening events. They'll be interpreting at the proficiency community meeting on Thursday. They'll be there. They can physically go to schools and have meetings with parents and guardians. They can also, because we are now at a very different place with technology, a lot of these things can be done virtually. They are accessible by Teams. They jump on Zoom calls. They are answering emails. They are communicating with all of our families in ways that are accessible. We also have multilingual support for families with SNAP housing, food, through our ELL parent advocates. And then we are going to be posting multilingual signage at all the schools so that they can have access. A parent comes in, they need to speak with someone who speaks their language. All they have to do is make a phone call and they have access. So my staff are here. We have bilingual community relations facilitators. Their responsibilities are really from the school to home communication and home to school communication. So I'm going to have them come up and introduce themselves in their native languages. Come on, Lucia. Come. Everybody stand up, so we've got to make it fit.
Boa noite, meu nome é Lúcia e ainda trabalho com famílias cabo-verdianas.
Boa noite, a minha Anitta da Veiga, ainda trabalho com famílias cabo-verdianas e também as que falam português.
Hola, mi nombre es Silvia Vázquez y yo ayudo a las familias que hablan español.
Boa noite, meu nome é Connie Branco, não falo crioulo, não falo português também. Falo português também, meu nome é Connie Branco.
Bonsoir tout le monde, mon nom c'est Brockton Pierre-Antoine, je suis communication facilitateur de communication pour Brockton Public Schools, pour les Haïtiens et pour ceux qui parlent français.
Bonsoir, non pas c'est Annie Pierre-Louis, moi c'est facilitateur pour communiquer avec tous les parents haïtiens.
Buenas noches, mi nombre es Bárbara Licea y yo trabajo con las familias de habla español.
Boa noite, meu nome é Elisângela de Pina. Trabalho com família que fala crioulo e português. Eu trabalho com famílias que falam português e crioulo.
Thank you. And next, I want to introduce the ELL parent advocates. Brockton Public Schools invested in parent advocates in about 2012, 2013. And I will say that the parent advocates and the bilingual community facilitators were really instrumental in helping families through the pandemic. ELL parent advocates are the staff who work with anything that the parent and family might be facing that may influence a child's readiness to learn. We want kids to have all of their needs met so they're ready to learn in our classrooms. And so these ELL parent advocates provide support and resources to external needs. So I'm going to have them introduce themselves in their native languages.
Good evening. My name is Gene Cherry. And also, I am one of the advocates, the ELL parent advocates. Je m'appelle Rodrigue Chegui. Je suis un des parents, un avocat de parents haïtiens. Je parle français et je parle aussi le créole haïtien. C'est un plaisir d'être ici avec vous ce soir.
Boa noite, meu nome é Adele Gomes, ainda trabalho com pais e famílias cabo-verdianos e português.
Buenas noches, mi nombre es Javier Castro Soto y ayudo a las familias que hablan español.
Thank you. I can't express enough the work that they do to support families of Brockton Public Schools, to support kids of Brockton Public Schools. These staff members dedicated countless hours during the pandemic, so much that the national organization Coloring Colorado profiled them throughout the pandemic. And the investment that Brockton made to these staff members really made the difference in keeping families safe, engaged with learning, connected, and fed. So thank you very much for all that you do. So the next project that we've been working on is the Equitable Design Project. This is a partnership with Brockton Public Schools, institutions of higher ed, the Novo Foundation, and the community. So I'm going to have the team come up and share their experiences with the project.
Hi, everybody. My name is Chad Rubacaba. I am a consultant with an organization called Education First. Education First is a national education policy and strategy consulting firm. One of our clients is the Novo Foundation, which Kelly mentioned. And on behalf of the Novo Foundation, we administer their investment portfolio for all their grants related to social and emotional learning. And it's through that work that we came into a partnership with Brockton Public Schools. And that's because BPS has received multiple grants from the Novo Foundation, which you should all interpret as an indication that you all are doing really great things in social and emotional learning, so give yourselves a pat on the back. And in October of 2020, the latest, BPS received its latest grant from the Novo Foundation, the Equitable Design Grant. That grant program was launched as a response to the pandemic and a desire of the foundation to support school systems as they, through their recovery efforts and working with students and families. And the grant program provided BPS with $200,000 in funding, plus some technical assistance and coaching from my organization, Education First, on different equitable design principles. So it's been my privilege over the last 2 years and some change, to work with this talented group of people from Brockton Public Schools and the community on equitable design and applying equitable design concepts and principles to some of the challenges and problems that they've identified that they actually want to solve. So I've used this term equitable design, and I should probably take a step back and tell you what equitable design means. Equitable design is an approach to designing solutions that blends traditional user-centered design approaches, design thinking models, with the consciousness of equity work. So for example, in a traditional design thinking approach, a designer might ask the question, how do we create a solution with the user in mind? And in contrast, an equitable designer would ask the same question differently. They might say something like, how do we design a solution for users that are at the margins? Or how do we design a solution for users that experience the problem that we're trying to solve most acutely? It's a subtle distinction, but it's an approach and it's a way of thinking that helps us access and use the immense cultural wisdom and expertise that currently resides here in Brockton. Among the concrete tools and skills that the design team has learned include things like how to define problems, which is actually, you can ask anyone on the design team, it's a lot more complicated than it actually appears, how to define problems, how to conduct empathy interviews, how to do a root cause analysis, how to ideate potential solutions, how to prototype, and how to implement solutions. These are also skills that have broad applicability. So we came to Brockton and awarded a grant focused on recovery and restart in response to the pandemic. But the skills can be applied to just about any single challenge or problem that you're trying to solve. Here in Brockton, the way that we've organized ourselves as a group is shown. You see the people that are considered part of the design team on this slide, and some of those folks are within the school system. Some are part of partner organizations, and within this larger design team, we've also divided ourselves into two smaller working groups because we're interested in solving a lot of problems. So one of the working groups is the Community and Family Voice working group. We're going to talk more about some of the work that we've been doing within that working group. The folks behind me are going to share some of the work that we've been doing within that working group. Separately, and I hope that we have the opportunity to come back to share with you some of the work that we're doing in our other working group. That working group is focused on student voice. So a lot of parallel activities taking place, and I hope that we are able to share that work with you as well in the near future. And we want to share with you some of the things that we recently learned through a prototype where we were testing different methods and different ways of reaching parents. And we recently were meeting with parents who are coming to the Parent Center to register their children for kindergarten. And through that, we learned a lot about the best ways to reach parents and to engage with them. But we also learned a lot about the ways that they are experiencing Brockton Public Schools. And it's that latter question, their experiences with the school system, that we think are really important and want to share with you today. So without further ado, I'm going to turn things over to Linny and Dr. Pilgrim, and they are going to tell you more about the questions that we asked and what we learned as a result.
Good evening. I'm Lenny Montero, also known as Anita. I'm a parent of two girls in the Brockton Public School System, and I'm also a product of the Brockton Public School System. We had an opportunity to speak with parents, and we asked them the questions that you see on the screen. And these questions were posed on paper and also electronically. But the best opportunity that we had was to actually speak to the parents. We had 3 of us there, Evelise and Sean, speaking Cape Verdean Creole, Portuguese, Haitian Creole, Spanish. And by being able to speak with them, and I can speak for myself, it goes along with what Dr. Soraya Presme was saying with the work that the bilingual department is doing, is being able to meet with them and being able to speak with them face to face. As they started answering these questions, initially parents were hesitant, but as we kept speaking with them and in a way engaging with them and them getting to know us, again, using myself as an example, they would ask me, where am I from? Or, being able to speak to them in Cape Verdean Creole, all of a sudden they know who my family is, and then they're getting comfortable, and then they're giving you more information than you actually asked for. And even towards the end, they would be like, oh, can you keep this off the record? And the way they were answering the question, I'm like, no, that's a great answer to this question. That shouldn't be off the record. But that goes to show you how comfortable they got and how important it was to be able to speak to them face to face, and knowing that they had somebody that was listening to them and understanding them and being able to provide the input that was so needed, because they shared so much information that wasn't really captured on paper or electronically. So, it highlights the work that Dr. Presme was talking about earlier, that family engagement doing that face-to-face, and then the work that the bilingual department is doing. So thank you.
Thank you. I just want to take a moment to acknowledge Dr. or Assistant Superintendent Wolder, who's part of our original team with this project. Renee from the EDI office is also an original member of this team. And I want to thank Superintendent Thomas and the members of the school committee for this opportunity. You can read these responses for yourselves, and I'm going to highlight a couple of things just to kind of connect the dots. We heard an amazing presentation from Dr. Soraya earlier, and we heard amazing presentations from parents. And what I want to make clear is that this work, which my colleague Chad already described and which Kelly described, is connected to so many of these different initiatives in the district right now that are upholding the district priorities and connecting all of the different initiatives that have to do with EDI. So everything is connected, and as so many people have said, we should be proud of ourselves as a district and at the same time keep pushing ourselves to do more. We have amazing, to use a sports metaphor, we have amazing players on this team, but the students and parents are the MVPs. And as Lenny just mentioned, meeting them where they're at the point of their needs and engaging with them in their languages and with compassion and empathy, it just opens a door. So this work has to do with EDI, and we throw that acronym around a lot, but it really has to do with trust, building trust. It has to do with improving the negative image that sometimes people have of our district, right? And it has to do with paving a path forward for brighter futures for all of us as a community. So as you can see in these responses here, within each question that Lenny described and that you saw on the slides, there were subtopics that parents got to speak on, and many of them gave voice to a lot of the ideas that Dr. Soraya referred to, a lot of the emotion that the parents from Rose Conservatory gave voice to. They shared with us that they know their children best, that they love when people from our district allow them to share what their children need, how their children feel. As you can see, for example, in the first set of response that's on the screen, I can barely see it myself, the parent is describing how her daughter communicates with her, and that at the Angelo School, they have access to someone who really cares and gives them that support, and that support makes all the difference. The last one at the bottom, special involvement, it lets us know some of the things that we're doing right. Consistent follow-up, parent involvement, community involvement, and activities such as after-school enrichment and summer programs. So I would just venture to say from what you see here that, again, the students and families have the answers that we need to our difficult questions. And it's only up to us to actually listen and follow their lead oftentimes. So thank you again.
Thank you. In your packet, I think you have another presentation that goes into more depth on the Equitable Design Project. So you can read the themes from all of the questions. You can see how many respondents we had. You can read more about the Equitable Design process. So thank you team. And last but not least, I just want to highlight that Brockton Public Schools does have a bilingual parent advisory council. Barbara Laura, our bilingual parent advisory council district lead, is here. And with her staff, we have a variety of events organized by the leaders of the bilingual pack. So we are taking our cues from the coordinating council that represents all of the major languages. We've held 2 bilingual community resource fairs where we've brought all of the community resources to the Arnone School. We've had over 350 families in each of those events. We've had meetings with the superintendent where the leaders share their hopes and dreams for Brockton Public Schools. They've met with the state to share, to inform their work. And then we've had a series of events, including bilingual pack game nights, where we will have easily 100 families just spending time enjoying each other's company. So I don't want to keep us too long. So thank you very much for having me. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them now. No? All right, I'm good. Oh.
Yes, Ms. Sullivan?
I always hate this because I have to turn around. Will parents know about the Bilingual Parent Advisory Council?
Yes, we have flyers that go out. They're on the website. They're translated. We have in-house translators who translate everything into Spanish, Portuguese, and French, Haitian Creole as well. So we translate it and we disseminate it to our schools, to our teachers, and we have it on the website.
All right, thank you.
Ms. Azak?
Thank you. So this is wonderful. Many don't know, but English was not my first language. So at the age of 5, I could only speak Arabic. So having these resources for the families is just, we've come a long way. So this is pretty amazing. So on the Multilingual Parent Communication Center, are the translators, say the PTO needed something translated, can they?
So written translation comes to my office. So any request for written translation comes to my office. We send it out, we have it translated, and then we disseminate it back. The Multilingual Parent Communication Center is for oral interpretation, for home communication. Now, there are times where a family may show up with a document that's written in English and they don't understand it, and they certainly do that type of interpretation and translation. But we have a different process for written translation of documents.
Okay, because I know a lot of the schools, like the PTOs, PTAs, when it comes time to translating something, whether it's a flyer or something that's going on, a fundraiser or an activity that they're having at the school, it just takes a little longer to get something translated. So I wasn't sure if they had access to this, because we do have a lot of families that can benefit from a lot of these events. They just don't know, or it takes too long to get the translation done, and then we're short on time sometimes with the events.
So the phone system does send out messages, text messages, and phone messages in multiple languages, and that's been invaluable for accessing our families, because it'll automatically go out in a language that they understand. If they're able to send it to us a little bit in advance, we always translate for them. It's just the timing.
Definitely. And I have heard a lot of positive feedback with the text messages or the calls in the different languages. So parents do like that. Even though they do speak English, sometimes it's easier to have it in their own language, their native language. So, but thank you so much and wonderful work. Great job, team.
Thank you. And I'll close by saying that Brockton Public Schools was the first district in Massachusetts to have bilingual education. We started bilingual education in 1972-73 school year. That was before the Supreme Court case Lau versus Nichols, which required districts to provide access and equitable access to a meaningful education. And this year is our 50th anniversary of bilingual education in Brockton Public Schools. So,
Awesome.
thank you.
So I just want to personally thank all of you for everything you do every day for us families, for your colleagues, for the students, and for each other. I've worked with a lot of you, have come into meetings that I have to have with students, and a lot of them are just trying to find out how we can support and get the child back on track. So I appreciate when you come into those meetings. So your role in those meetings are very important for us to make connections so we can help their child and, get them back performing in school the way they can be and get them the support they need. So I want to personally thank you for attending those meetings with me. And again, thank you for everything you do for the school department, because you've made headlines. And again, like Kelly said, you're in books throughout the country, so your work is well documented. But I think it's, I just want to say a simple thank you for everything you do every day. It's much, much appreciated. Okay, next, I would ask if the committee could remove the first read of the calendar and push it off to the next meeting, because the calendar that is submitted has a few errors on it. So I would say that to allow the first meeting to go to the next so we can make adjustments to it. Yes, please. To postpone it until the next formal school committee meeting.
Yeah, can I get a motion to postpone the first read of the school year calendar for 23-24?
So moved. Motion to, you got that, Ms. Sullivan? Motion to postpone the read of the BPS 2023 to 2024 district calendar to our next official school committee meeting.
Sure.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Sullivan.
We need a...
And can I get a show of hands approved? Anybody abstain, denied? Oh, okay.
Thank you all, I appreciate that. And then I will hold off on items to refer to subcommittees after we go through the subcommittees, because I do have a few that need to go to subcommittees that are kind of timely, but I'll leave those until the vote happens on subcommittees.
All right, so let's move on to that. So next up is unfinished business, and under unfinished business is for us to vote on the appointment of subcommittees for the 2023 calendar year. And I'm going to go through what those committees are. So we have an accounts review committee. We have athletics, arts, music, extracurricular activities, bid review, building naming, community schools, curriculum, which is a committee of the whole, diversity, race, equity, and inclusion, facilities usage planning, finance, committee of the whole, grievance, both certified and non-certified, the IT board, information technology board, negotiations. The only collective bargaining agreements that we have coming up this year is for food service, so the other ones do not need to be assigned at this time. Then we have policy, which is committee of the whole, policy manual review, salary accreditation, school committee representative to the Brockton Educational Foundation, school committee representative to the BHS Parents Advisory Council, school committee representative to Save Our Sports, and our security, safety, transportation. And then last, we have the superintendent's contract, which is a committee of the whole. Now, can I get a motion to approve the committees? Yes, Mrs. Azak?
Before we approve it, I just had a quick question. Sure. So as a couple of things, as we review the subcommittees, I'm honored, but I have 9 subcommittees assigned to me, where some members only have 3. So I was just curious to see how the placement of the subcommittees were done.
Similar to our conversation earlier, this is kind of what happened last year, where there was an imbalance, and there were several members that had 9 or 10 subcommittees that were assigned to them, and there were a few that didn't. We don't have the collective bargaining agreements this year that we had last year, and so, and some of these committees, as you know, don't meet as often as other committees. Some are heavier than others. And so, with that being said, we took exactly what was requested. Last year's assignments, we took all of your personal requests of where you'd like to be on for committees, and then we took both of those and made a very fair consideration of who should be on subcommittees and where for this year. That's how the design went.
Okay, interesting, because...
Ms. Rivas-Mendez?
Are you outside, Joyce?
No, actually, I don't see how that adds up, where someone's got 9 and you have athletics, you have facilities, you have safety, you have diversity, and then you're on negotiations. And there's others, not to mention the finance curriculum policy and the superintendent's evaluation. I just don't see how that's fair when someone's got 3 and they might not meet at all this year. But thank you, I am honored, thank you. I appreciate the 9 committees. Usually we try to give everyone equal numbers.
Thank you.
Sorry. My
No, you're
question
fine.
is specifically on bid review. Nothing against Mr. Homer, but Mr. Homer, from my understanding, has never been on bid review. I just wonder, how is he chairing something that he doesn't really know? And I don't mean to speak for him. It was a concern that I had. So can you chair a subcommittee that you've never really been on yet?
You can.
Okay.
That's not against policy at all. You can, and both...
Is it best practice, though? Just because, like, I don't know, I envision myself being chair of something that I've never been on and not having the experience. I mean, pretty sure you had a conversation with him, but I wanted to get enlightened on how that decision was determined to be the chair when you have, like, Judy Sullivan or Tim Sullivan, who has been on it for quite a bit.
Because of that exact reason. Mr. Homer would be brand new as a chair, but you've got 2 senior members of the school committee on the same committee that would give Mr. Homer an opportunity to lead a new subcommittee with 2 senior members to be able to help him get through that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, Mr. Rodriguez?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to echo off of what Cynthia said, the bid review, that is a very, very important subcommittee of the school committee. And just because you have 2 senior members on it, I don't think that, quality work are coming out of those members. Me and you sat on that. There's a lot of stuff that needs to be reviewed, and I don't think that subcommittee has true leadership. I think that subcommittee should be revamped, as Mr. Sullivan's been on that committee since he's probably been on the school committee. And we've come up to a lot of issues with that subcommittee. And also, when it comes to subcommittees, usually the chair of the subcommittee, to echo somebody that's actually sat on that subcommittee, not to say that Jared can't chair that or anybody else, but it's usually, if the chair is not part of that subcommittee, somebody that continues to sit on that committee will come in and chair that subcommittee. But I do find an issue with having the most 2 senior members of the school committee sitting on that actually doesn't do the legwork to actually get the information out and do their research. So I think the public needs to know that, and I think this committee needs to be very aware of that. So I think that subcommittee should be revamped.
That, just to clarify, you believe that the bid review subcommittee should be revamped because of your feelings against 2 other committee members' ability?
It's not feelings, it's knowledge, and it's public knowledge. Anybody in the community can go back and watch the Zoom meetings, and we can attest to that.
Okay, we're not going to do this now.
This is a public forum, it's a meeting, so this is
Understood.
Part of my position on the school committee
Mhm.
is to voice my concerns, so that's my concern.
Okay, duly noted, thank you. Any other questions in regards to the assignments on subcommittees? Ms. Azak?
So if we can just go back, we keep going back and forth on this, and I don't want to go back to the last meeting, but why are we not consecutive with all our subcommittees as 4-member subcommittees? No matter what we do, our quorum is 3. Having that extra member I think the committee should vote on it. It makes sense where some of us are on so many committees, and this happened last year. You know, you're trying to juggle multiple committees, and a lot of them are trying to meet the same night. Having that fourth member, I don't see what makes the difference, but it does make a difference on that actual committee. If somebody has a work commitment, family commitment, or just can't make it, you still need 3 for your quorum. So either way, 3 is our quorum. So I'd like to see our committee just vote on that. It is in our policy. But, you know, you have some committees that are 3 and some committees that are 4. Why is it that way? I'm not sure. Things changed over the years. You know, for example, policy manual, if I'm going to chair that, I'd like 4 members. You know, especially, you know, negotiations, I'd like 4 members. Because if one member can't make it, can we still meet with 2 members? You know, rather than canceling these meetings. And, you know, you're not just dealing with our committee, you're dealing with attorneys, you're dealing with union reps. So we don't want to have to cancel these meetings because we do not have a quorum. So again, it's in our policy. I really think as a committee, we should be, you know, across the board, not some committees 3, some committees 4.
I don't disagree with that at all. This is exactly the same amount of people that were on the committees that were selected last year. So I think you are correct, and if you are the chairperson of the policy manual review, my first recommendation would be for you to change that.
No, definitely. We had chatted earlier. You know, we had a quick phone call, so that was one of my questions. And the other one is the negotiations, where you have attorneys for both sides, and you have union reps, and you have BPS employees that you know, there's so many moving parts when we're meeting that we shouldn't have to postpone a meeting because we don't have enough people present. So it just makes more sense to, you know, yes, this is how it's always been. Last January, you know, we checked with our attorney, we looked into the policy. Things happen over time. I don't know what happened, but if that's how our policy is, it just makes more sense to have 4 people rather than rushing around last minute trying to make sure we have a quorum if someone is away, you know, ill, family matters, work. So I'm going to add a 4th person on my 2 committees. I will bring it to the committee. So if we can add 2 additional people.
Well, this would be probably the perfect opportunity to ask Peter Mello if he'd like to stand up and maybe answer some of those questions, if you don't mind, Peter. Thank you so much. Yeah. There you go.
Happy to field questions, of course. I mean, you know.
So to Ms. Azak's point, which I do agree with because it's something that I thought about when we chatted last week, how there are some subcommittees that have 3 people and have had 3 people like over time. They've always had 3 people and they've just generationally kept 3 people. And then there are some subcommittees that are 4. And when I was asking Mayor Sullivan, I'm like, shouldn't they all be consistently 4? What would we need to do at this point to ensure that they're all 4 if we're making that change? And is it as simple as Ms. Azak being able to go to her committee and say, I'd like this to be a 4-person committee?
Mm-hmm. Well, so first of all, state law imposes no restriction or limitation on the composition of a subcommittee. It's within the discretion of the public body. The reason why we have these debates here with respect to the school committee is that the school committee has policies that prescribe certain rules relating to subcommittees. The school committee wields discretion over the policies themselves. So if there's a desire on the part of the members of the school committee to modify the rules that govern how they compose their subcommittees and how they vote on subcommittees, you know, I think that's a fair debate, and that's a perfectly worthy subject of vetting at the policy subcommittee level or by members of the committee. What the committee policies say at the moment is, and it's my interpretation, and it's subject, I guess, to reasonable debate. Although I think, and I'm happy to explain all the bases upon which I yield to the conclusion that subcommittees of the Brockton School Committee can comprise 3 or 4 people. There are a few reasons, but what they say right now is that the mayor appoints members of subcommittees subject to the full committee's approval. And it says in a separate policy or provision of the school committee's policies that a subcommittee can comprise no more than 4 members and that a quorum is 3. So for a variety of reasons, which I'm happy to go through, although I'm not sure that that people have any desire to hear me articulate that, because it seems like everyone is comfortable with that interpretation. That there's a consensus that we can have 3 or 4 members, and the question is, what do we want? The mayor's proposed this slate as chair, which is within his, which is one of the powers that the policies confer upon the mayor as chair of the school committee to appoint members of the subcommittees. He's proposed a slate, and now the question before this committee is whether to approve the proposed slate that the mayor's formulated. So, that's about the size of it. I don't know if there are other questions beyond that. I'm happy to address anything, but, the historical practice is that some subcommittees comprise 3, some subcommittees comprise 4, and, you all would know better than I would the genesis of that, how long certain committees have included 3 as opposed to 4, and which committees have been constituted by 3 as opposed to 4. But that's all, in my view, that's within this committee's discretion. Do you want 3 or 4, and who sits on those committees, who serves as chair? It's the mayor's slate to propose, and the committee's job to either approve or reject the proposed slate.
And I don't disagree with you, Ms. Azak, about the 4, but if you just look at simple math, if we have 4 people on every subcommittee, we're all going to be on anywhere from 8 to 10 subcommittees. And so that's the other piece to it, is like, there's no way to avoid it. I mean, just keeping it simplistic.
No, I get it, but those that were on negotiations last year, there was double booking. Some members couldn't make it. I mean, rather than having to postpone, where you have so many people that are involved in that meeting, it is a negotiations, that having the 4th member gives you that flexibility. If someone, is not able to make it, that's my only reason. Because, I even stepped up last year. It was getting to be a lot for some of the members, and I'm like, listen, I'll step in, I'll get assigned to that negotiations, because you had members that were on multiple negotiations. I'm on a lot of subcommittees. That's fine. I'm fine with it. But I'm going to run into some scheduling issues. And that's why having 4 members, when you run into a scheduling, I think the committee should, it isn't our policy. If I'm going to chair these committees that I'm assigned to, I would like 4 members on my committee to give my members that flexibility. If, something does come up, we have 3 that are already there. Either way, we have to have 3 to have a quorum. So having that 4th person, is not going to make a huge difference, other than giving us that flexibility if somebody's not able to attend.
And Chair Ehlers, I don't mean to interject, if the other thing to consider is that, and this is more of a practical, issue or proposition than a legal one, but the default rule with quorums is that a quorum is a majority of the membership of the body. I'm not sure why the committee adopted a policy that that created this minimum quorum requirement. But there's nothing that would foreclose a public body ordinarily under state law from having a subcommittee of 2. These rules are all totally within the full committee's discretion, and again, it could be the subject of prospective policy discussion. But right now, the policies say 3 or 4, and I think again, there are a variety of reasons why I drew that conclusion. But you definitely can't go below 3 because it sets a minimum quorum of 3. So, but that's not that's a requirement or a restriction that the committee imposed upon itself through its policies, and not something that can't be altered going forward, not for purposes of tonight's discussion, but going forward.
So basically, if we would like to add to those committees and make them 4, which I think we all are in agreement with, we can move on with the vote and then add them at a later date, or no?
Well, so there's nothing right now that I'm aware of that requires any particular committee to constitute 4 as opposed to 3.
Okay.
I think it's just been the committee's historical practice to
Okay.
compose it that way. But my only point was, there's a lot of discussion about, is it 3, is it 4, should it be 3 or 4? I'm just saying the point is that state law imposes no limitation, so that the committee, it's the policy that's the derivation to that 3 or 4 limitation. Under state law, if that policy didn't exist, this full committee could appoint a subcommittee of 2. And there's obviously a device in the committee's policies to suspend policies via a 2/3 quantum of vote. So, there's that too. And I wouldn't say in any particular instance the committee is foreclosed from deviating from its policies by a 2/3 vote if it wanted to. That's a different discussion, but so it's 3 or 4 under the policy. And the mayor proposes a slate and the committee votes on the proposed slate.
This is the proposed slate by the mayor. He is not here today. I am here representing him. We can motion to take a vote on the proposed slate. And Ms. Azak, to your point, I would absolutely look at adding those additional members to the 4, because I do agree with that. Mr. Rodriguez.
Actually, you represent yourself as the vice chair, not the mayor. That's just a correction. Not to throw a shot at you, but that's what it is. But
No problem.
I would like to make a motion that we approve this subcommittee that's listed before us, with subject to adding a 4th member to the committees that have 3, and to postpone the bid review subcommittee to revamp that with other new members.
Second.
Okay, so we have an approval on accounts review, athletics, building, community, curriculum, again, all with the 4th member. Diversity, race, equity, facilities, finance, committee of the whole, grievance, certified, non-certified, information technology board, negotiations. The only negotiation this year is food service, policy committee of the whole, policy manual review, salary accreditation, school committee rep for BEF, school committee rep for parent advisory council, school committee representative for Save Our Sports, and the security, safety, and transportation, with the superintendent's contract finalizing the list. Does that sound correct? Do I have a motion to approve those, taking out bid review and making them all 4-member teams?
Sorry to interrupt. Attorney Mello, so we've always assigned, even though that's the only contract that's being negotiated this year is food service, but what if something comes up? We've always had committee members assigned to them. We've never left them. Same with the bargaining. We've always had things assigned, members assigned to them, rather than leave them blank. We've always had bargaining, and we've always had all of the negotiations. I mean, what if something comes up and they need to review something? We don't have, for example, say police. We don't have a committee assigned to police in case something comes up with their contract.
My understanding was that we were able to, if it came up, we were able to put together a committee to be able to address it.
So the committee has the ability to appoint a subcommittee on an ad hoc basis, absolutely. Yeah, there are certain standing committees that the school committee appoints annually. Nothing forecloses the committee from forming a subcommittee, in the course of a calendar year between organizational meetings or on an ad hoc basis for a particular purpose. There's nothing in the policy that would preclude that, or under state law. So my only question with respect to the motion is a little bit of a procedural nuance, but it's sort of an up and down proposition as I read the policy. The mayor proposes or appoints members of a subcommittee, and that is subject to the approval of the full committee. So it feels a little disjointed procedurally to approve it subject to the addition, because I guess perhaps it would be more appropriate or as a practical matter, more efficient to have the mayor participate in any conversation about deviating from his proposed composition. Rather than, I don't want to create a procedural, morass by having, this vote that leaves open-ended this question about whether, if in theory, for example, the mayor disagrees with adding a fourth to a particular committee. I'm just throwing that out there. I just don't want to create unnecessary, questions or concerns or, problems procedurally.
I do know that he agrees with the fourth member because we talked about it.
Okay.
And the only reason we kept it at 3 was because it's been 3 for so many years.
Okay.
And so, again, I'm glad Ms. Azak brought it up because I thought about the same thing. I think it's great. We should have 4. It gives an extra person. I mean,
Yeah, I'm just
great.
flagging that. If that's
Yeah,
something,
no.
if you're not concerned about it, if the committee's
I'm not
concerned
concerned about the
yeah.
fourth person,
Okay.
but I do want to know the best way for us to close out this meeting so that we can appease everybody that has concerns. I want to make sure that we're taking care of Mr. Rodriguez's concerns with the bid review, and we discussed that. Can we approve the others while taking that piece out, and Mr. Homer?
I would just mention too, I'd be happy to chair any of the committees. I really don't hold a specific preference to one over the other. Bid review is the only one I'm assigned to chair. So removing me as the chair from that one would leave me with no committees to chair. So I'd be willing to trade off on anything. I'm a member of all 3 of the committees that are currently assigned to 3, so I wouldn't be able to be added as a 4th. So just something to consider for the members that are concerned about the amount of work. Just on a quick glance, it looks like we're all pretty balanced with 9, 10, or 11. One with 12 committees. It's pretty heavy. So I think we're all doing a heavy lift, and I'm happy to take my share as a chair for any of those committees.
Thank you. So, Attorney Mello, what are your recommendations on the best way for us to move forward legally?
Right, so if the question is, does the committee have to vote on the slate, in omnibus fashion, so to speak, in one fell swoop? I don't think that the policy explicitly requires that. I think that this committee could, it could do that, or it could vote on a subcommittee by subcommittee basis, or it could, it could exclude from its omnibus vote one particular proposed subcommittee. I don't see anything in the policy that would preclude that. So, for example, if the committee is content with the composition of all the other subcommittees, excluding one, and wants to, send it back to the mayor, so to speak, I think that's within the committee's discretion, and in that event, all the other proposed subcommittees would be deemed approved, and the mayor, it would be the next step, I think, as a practical matter, would be for the mayor to submit another, perhaps alternative proposed subcommittee or composition for that particular carved-out subcommittee.
I think the best way to handle this is the way we handle the consent agenda. And basically, these are the subcommittees that have been assigned. Does anyone wish to remove an item from the subcommittees?
I've already put the motion on the floor, and it was probably seconded by Cynthia, but on the motion, I would like to amend that the negotiations for the bargaining units, members be added to the school police, custodians, MTAs, paraprofessionals, and the IBA, ATA.
You want to populate those bargaining units,
To
even
add
though,
members to those negotiation committees.
but those aren't up for negotiations for another 3 years.
Anything can happen if there's an MOU, anything, so it's always
Understood,
been
but
that.
we can have an ad hoc committee if any of those come up.
It's just the amended motion. If somebody wants a second, they can second. If not, then we move on.
Would anybody like to properly second that?
I'll second it. It just makes more sense to take care of That's why they called our last meeting organizational meeting. It just makes more sense to take care of everything all at once rather than bits and pieces throughout the year. That's where we set our ground rules for the year, is during our organizational meeting. So it just makes more sense. I mean, it could be the same members, but we just need to spell it out, that's all, to see who's on those committees.
Recommendations?
So just so I'm clear on what's being proposed, and I will say with respect to bargaining, obviously you want to tread carefully and make sure that whatever you're doing doesn't implicate any other, legal requirements. At the moment, extemporaneously, I would, if that motion were to carry and then the committee wanted to add a fourth, I just want to caution that I would have to evaluate that question. I'm not sure if there's anything in terms of collective bargaining requirements that we would need to consider in that, in that regard. But if I'm clear, the committee is taking the mayor's proposed slate and saying that is identifying certain subcommittees with respect to which it wants to ask the mayor to propose one additional member. Is that? I just want to be clear about what the motion is.
There are several. The first one is moving those 3-member, inherited subcommittees to 4 members. The second is the bid review, taking that out of the subcommittee to be reconsidered for members. And there was a third.
Just the negotiation.
Oh, adding the bargaining teams to the contracts, having bargaining teams for the contracts, whether they're up for renewal or not, assigning members to those teams.
Okay. And with respect to the concept of adding a 4th member to subcommittees that currently comprise 3, your understanding is the mayor, he's amenable to that?
Yeah, he's totally amenable to that, and there's like 2 or 3. It's not, the majority of the committees have 4 members, but there's a couple like building naming has 4. Policy, the one that Joyce is chairing, has 3. And grievance certified and non-certified have always had 3. That's it.
Okay, so the first piece of the motion is to request the mayor propose a 4th member for all subcommittees comprising 3 members. Right? Mm-hmm. And then the second piece of the motion is, you can repeat that just so I'm clear.
No, that's
Sorry.
okay. To pull the bid review subcommittee out of the group
Okay.
so that we can redefine those members.
Okay. Which I don't think, as I mentioned, there's anything that forecloses this committee from, exempting from the scope of its vote one particular proposed subcommittee. I think it could do that. It could vote in omnibus fashion, it could vote individually, or it could, take all but one and vote on those, and then essentially, reject the one that it's excluding, or in lieu of rejecting it, just taking it out of the vote and basically referring it back to the mayor. I don't think there's anything that forecloses that. So that's component number 2 of the motion, right? And component number 3 was?
Adding the members to the collective bargaining agreements that are not up for renewal, the ones that we had discussed last week, and we could add an ad hoc team to if anything came up. But now Ms. Rodriguez would like us to populate that. And I don't have a problem doing that because, I really don't have a problem doing it because they're not coming up, so we can add those names in there just in case. But when we talked previously, it was like we were kind of putting NA on those because they're not up for renewal. But adding those is not a non-issue.
Got it. So then the third piece of the motion is to request that the mayor propose a slate of members for this third category of subcommittees. These subcommittees that weren't proposed to exist going forward because the bargaining was already concluded with respect to those units.
Yeah, those members are just, those members are there as a just in case,
Yeah.
because those CBAs are not up for another 3 years.
Right.
So they're just placeholders, if you will.
Okay, so you're asking the mayor to propose members of those committees for future consideration?
Correct.
Yeah, I don't see anything wrong with that either.
Okay, so those are all, for the lack of a better phrase, changeable, even if we vote in an omnibus fashion.
Yeah, I think you can, what's a little bit, I guess, peculiar procedurally is that, it's, again, the way I read it, it's an up or down proposition. The mayor says, I'm going to appoint these members to Committee A. The concept of this committee saying, well, we approve this, this committee, this proposed subcommittee, but we want you to add a fourth member. I guess there's a scenario conceivably under which the mayor, but as I'm explaining this, you already said that the mayor is amenable to adding a fourth member. So what I was going to say is there's a scenario under which the mayor might say, no, I don't want to add anybody to that. But if you're comfortable that that the mayor would be amenable to proposing a fourth member for each of those 3-member subcommittees, then I don't see a problem with that as a practical matter. What would happen is the mayor would just propose a fourth member for each of those committees, and then that would be the subject of a school committee vote. And by the way, if there are any questions about how I'm explaining any of this, let me know.
Does anybody have? Ms.
Sorry.
Azak? No,
So,
please.
in all honesty, it just doesn't make sense. Like, we're for in all these committees except for negotiations, then the bargaining, and then grievance, and then policy manual. I just think across the board, it's our organizational meeting. We take care of it. We don't have to worry about it. No running around last minute trying to assign committees. But it just makes more sense. We've served on the committee, and I've never seen it left empty. To be honest, I mean, Mr. Sullivan and Mrs. Sullivan have been on the committee. I've just never seen it left empty. It just makes more sense for us to take care of it during our organizational meeting. But it is the committee's vote, so it's whatever the committee wants. But it just makes more sense to be, do everything. That way we don't have to second guess, like, oh, is it a 3-member or a 4-member committee?
Yep.
So.
Yeah, no, it makes good practical sense. I agree. And if the mayor's amenable to it, then what would happen is that at the next meeting, the mayor would just propose a fourth member for each of those committees that, for which he's currently proposed only 3 members, and the committee would vote on it. I don't see any problem with that.
So how do we close out this meeting?
Well, so there's, Tony made a motion, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Consisting of these 3 components.
Yep.
So, barring any questions, if everyone's comfortable with their understanding of what those 3 components are, the next step, I think, would be a vote on the motion. It's been seconded, right?
Yeah, Cynthia seconded. Cynthia Rivas-Mendez seconded.
Okay. So I think that's, the next step would be a vote on the, again, in the committee's discretion, a vote on the proposed motion.
Okay, can I get a show of hands who approve? Yes, I'll have the motion repeated. Sorry, it's been a while since we talked about it. So the motion for the school committee assignments is to A, propose a 4th member to the committees that are now only have 3 members. 2, we're going to remember /member the bid review team after this, and we will come back with the results for that, but we're going to reconsider those members. And then 4th, I'm going to populate all of the collective bargaining agreements so that at least we have members in those in case anything comes up with the MOUs, to Mr. Rodriguez's, using his verbiage, not mine. But those 3 things don't prevent us from having a full vote to approve, because they can all be handled, adjusted, worked on after the fact. That makes sense?
And just if I could interject one final point with respect to the third piece of that, if there's anything, again, as I sit here, it sounds fine, but if there's, again, I'm kind of thinking about this extemporaneously, so if there's anything on the collective bargaining end, if I have any concerns about that, I'll vet it a little bit internally and take a look, and I'll let the committee know. As I'm sitting here, I don't have any concerns, but if I do, upon further analysis, I'll let you know.
Thank you. Okay, so we have Cynthia Rivas-Mendez, who seconded that vote. So can I get a show of hands who approves us? What would be the verbiage? I'm like totally lost right now. Can I get a motion of hands who approve the pushing or changing of the fourth member, removing bid review, and adding the CBAs, populating the CBAs? A show of hands for approval. Okay, and a show of hands not approved. Okay, we have a 4 to 2.
Kathy, remember, you have a vote as well.
I know, and I was gonna say, I'm 5 for the, I think we can work on these 3 things and make everybody happy, so I'm gonna go with approving it so that we can get this resolved once and for all. Yes, Ms. Azak?
Can we just, if they're not meeting anyway, so why not just make those that are on food service for this year, for all of them, just cover all of, that's how it's been sometimes in the past, but last year, because we were reviewing so many contracts, that's why we split them up. Usually it's the same people.
Yeah.
Usually it's the same, but last year, because we had so many that were up for renewal, because the year before, we had the 1-year contracts during COVID, so that's why we split them up, rather than keep the same members. But, I mean, in years past, it's usually been whoever's been appointed. We just need a 4th to help the members. Kind of like a backup. But, I mean, that one should be fine.
Okay, moving on. We're moving to the approval of rules and orders. And that is on basically the last page, and I am going to encourage everybody to look at the rules and orders because there were some policy manual reviews that we updated last year that are pretty clear. They're in red at the back of that booklet. So just take a look at it. Look at, the ethics section. Look at why we're here. It's just a nice reminder to read through it as to the purpose of all of this. So I would remind everybody to do that. And then, and this is the same procedure as the consent agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the new rules and orders for 2023?
Motion to approve
2022,
the rules
23.
and orders of the school committee.
In orders of, is that what it, orders?
Yeah.
Of approval of rules and orders of the school committee. Can I get a motion to approve the rules and orders of the school committee for 2023? Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, motion is passed unanimously or by majority, so we are good. Moving on. Oh, that was an interesting first meeting, not gonna lie. Any new business that anybody would like to bring up?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, that's right, I need a show of hands, you're right. Nope, Tim seconded. Yep, and then can I get a show of hands, the approval for the orders and the, thank you very much for the, I want to get the right verbiage. Approval of the rules and orders of the school committee. Thank you very much. Now moving on to new business. Do we have any new business to be considered?
Sorry, just wanted to, I'm sure the superintendent can also say a few words. We had the John and Abigail Adams recipients, and this was pretty impressive where we had about 220, was it 220, 227 recipients? But these students were freshmen, and they came in during a pandemic. They started their freshman year during COVID. And to have 200 some odd students receive the John and Abigail Adams Scholarship was pretty impressive. It was mostly kind of like get them ready for June. So they were excited, and there was a great showing. Many families were excited to be there, so we just wanted to congratulate the students. And then I just wanted to remind everyone, on Saturday, we have the Brockton area branch of the NAACP annual MLK breakfast. It's going to be held at Lombardo's from 9 to 12. You can reach out to the NAACP to purchase tickets, but it's always a wonderful event. So that will be Saturday at Lombardo's.
Yep, thank you. I also want to thank Ms. Burns, Principal Burns, for putting that whole assembly together with her team and their support. Again, I want to thank and congratulate Mr. Rodriguez because his daughter was an Abigail Adams Scholar winner. So,
Very nice, Tony.
so we want to. So they did a great job putting that together. So it's much appreciated. So after new business, I'd like to just go back and go over some referrals to subcommittees. Whenever you're ready, I don't want to interrupt.
No, I just wanted to thank Attorney Mello for being here, because I had a feeling there'd be a lot of questions, especially from the last meeting. So, we called you and you were here, so appreciate it. Thank you.
I love being here.
I bet.
I also want to thank Coach Manny DeBarros, the boys
Yes.
basketball coach, for having us all tonight honoring the school committee for their commitment to athletics, and to Manny and his players for their hospitality and having us tonight at the game at 6 o'clock. They did little refreshments for us. We took a picture with them, and they all came up and said thank you. So I want to thank Coach DeBarros and the Brockton High boys basketball team for inviting us and having us there. So it's much appreciated.
Yeah, it was really nice. So let's now go back to your subject.
So I would ask that we schedule next week a facility subcommittee, now that has been approved, because we have several items that we need to bring to facility subcommittee, and they include the MSBA update for the Brockton High project. We need to update you on where we are with finding a bus depot. We also have a presentation from the architect who put the plans together for the turf fields that we went out and took a look at, which would be the field behind the AZF rink, the 4 middle schools, and the Davis School. Those plans are done, and the architect is ready to present to us next week. We also would like to ask the mayor, either he can have somebody from his office, a department head, whether it's the Parks Department or whether it's Mike Morris, to come and talk or Megan Bridges to come talk to us about an update with the Keith Field and where that is. I think the committee needs an update on that. So those are and also discuss the bid that is going out for the possible leasing of a trade school to expand our vocational programs. So those would be the items for the facility subcommittee. So if we can work with, the chair can work with Melinda to just make sure everybody's available next Tuesday. That I would say would be the only meeting, because I think it was going to be long, could be almost 2 hours. And then after that, I hope that we could, the following week, schedule a safety, security, and transportation meeting, so we can have Sergeant Livingston come along with Lieutenant Maker, so they want to introduce new officers and give updates about what they've been doing with Alice training in safety and security for schools. And I would also have Cliff Murray come and give an update on our transportation department. So that would be, again, the following week. And then obviously anybody else can refer anything, other subcommittees that need to take place. But those two are two that we really got to get in before the end of this month.
So facilities is a priority and bid review is a priority?
No, safety, security, transportation.
Safety, security, okay. Okay, you got it.
And if anybody else can propose, I mean, there's several subcommittees, but these are the two that I think we have open items, and I have people ready to present. So I think it's important for the committee to hear those, and I think it's important for us to get the updates we need from the city on the Key Field, and the other projects that we need to get moving on, especially a bus depot, and we, to find out where the mayor and Troy are with that going to city council, and
Yep.
and just have a discussion about that as well.
Yeah, I think you're right. Okay. Anything else under new business? I know we went back to subcommittee, items to refer to subcommittee, but just one more time, no, nothing under new business? Okay, I realize this is probably the best time of the night. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Oh, and I also want to apologize.
What?
I also want to apologize. I was calling Abby Ellen.
I know.
Ellen was last year's member, so I wish somebody corrected me because I feel like an idiot.
Well, I
So
voted
I've already
down
sent her a
Ellen.
Teams, I always sent her a Teams message apologizing for my mistake, and I will publicly apologize to her next time. But please, next time, jump in and say, "You idiot, that's not her
That
name."
is not
So I
her.
was calling her last year's name. Miss Burns tried, but I didn't look at my phone when but I feel ridiculous. So I apologize to her publicly, and I will at the next meeting. And probably get her a gift card or something to make up for
Oh,
it.
you do feel bad,
Yeah, I feel terrible. Jersey Mike's, yeah, there's a new Jersey Mike's.
right? Okay, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
What time are these meetings? Can we do them 6 o'clock?
Would have to be, the facilities would be at 6, and I would plan it at least be 6. It could go to 8, 8:30, because again, there's a lot on the facilities agenda that I think we need to discuss, and we should all have it down, because these are timely things that we really have to get moving on, and things that we have to bring to the city council. So I think we got to get these done by this committee first, and then we can ask city councils to sponsor what needs to go to them. So I think it's important to just do a facility subcommittee meeting next week and dedicate at least 2 to 2.5 hours on it.
Yeah, sounds fair. Okay, motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. Oh, I haven't even-
All in favor?
All in favor? Okay, thank you.